He was the kind of man everyone admired. A young millionaire, living the dream life that people only see in movies. His name was Arman. From the outside, his life looked perfect. He had money, fame, respect, and power. Every morning, he woke up in a grand mansion with tall glass windows. Outside, there were luxury cars waiting for him. Expensive brands filled his closet. If he wanted to fly, his private jet was ready within minutes. People around him believed he was the happiest man alive. But deep inside, something was missing. Arman could buy anything with his wealth, but he could not buy peace of mind. When the cameras turned off, when the parties ended, when the applause faded, he felt lonely. Everyone wanted to be close to him, but he knew the truth. Most people were only close because of his money. His so-called friends wanted business deals. His relatives wanted gifts. The world loved his success, not his heart. He often sat alone at night, looking out of the window, asking himself, "Why do I still feel empty? Why do I still feel alone?" People believed he would marry someone rich and glamorous. They imagined him with a famous actress, or a beautiful model, or maybe the daughter of another billionaire. The media loved to guess about his future wife. Newspapers wrote headlines, "Who will win the millionaire's heart?" Every event he attended was full of women trying to impress him. They wore designer clothes, heavy makeup, fake smiles. Everyone acted like they cared, but Arman could see through their eyes. He knew they didn't care about him. They only cared about the lifestyle he could give. And so, he never felt truly loved. Still, to the outside world, his life looked like a fairy tale. Reporters called him the golden boy of business. His companies were growing fast. His face was on magazine covers. Children looked up to him as an inspiration. But what no one saw was the silence inside his heart. He would return home from a successful meeting, and still sit alone with a cup of tea. He would hear laughter at parties, but deep down, he could not feel the same joy. Money made him powerful, yes, but it also made him a prisoner. A prisoner of people's expectations. A prisoner of fake relationships. One evening, he attended a charity event. The ballroom was decorated with golden lights, the music was soft, and the tables were full of wealthy guests. Everyone smiled and shook hands, pretending to be kind while showing off their jewels. Arman smiled politely too, but he felt out of place. He had attended hundreds of such events, and every time, it felt the same, empty. That night, while leaving the event, he looked at the city lights from his car window. Thousands of lights shining, but his heart felt darker than ever. He remembered his childhood. He wasn't born rich. He had struggled once, lived in small rooms, worked hard just to survive. Those days were tough, but strangely, he felt happier back then. He had real friends, real laughter, and dreams that pushed him forward. Now he had achieved those dreams, but the happiness was gone. People close to him noticed his silence. His assistant once asked, "Sir, you have everything people dream of. Why do you look so sad sometimes?" Arman only smiled and replied, "Because everything is not enough." The world only saw the millionaire, the cars, the mansion, the fame. But they didn't see the man inside, the man searching for real love, real kindness, something money could never buy. And then, something happened that no one expected. A meeting that would change his life forever. A decision that would shock the world. A story that would make everyone ask, "Why her?" But that is only the beginning. The news broke like thunder across the city. The millionaire is getting married. People rushed to find out who the bride was. The media exploded with questions, magazines rushed to print stories, and social media was full of guesses. Everyone thought they already knew the answer. Surely, it must be a famous actress, a glamorous model, or maybe the daughter of another rich businessman. But when the truth came out, the whole world was shocked. Her name was Sarah. She was not rich, not famous, not connected to high society. She worked in a small cafe near the corner of a busy street. She lived a simple life, far away from luxury. She had no designer clothes, no expensive jewelry, no spotlight on her. And yet, she was the woman the millionaire had chosen to marry. The media could not believe it. Journalists asked in disbelief, "How could this happen? Why would he choose her? Is this some kind of joke?" On the day of the wedding, reporters crowded outside. Cameras clicked non-stop, news channels broadcasted live updates. People waited to see the bride who had taken the heart of the man everyone admired. And then she walked in. No heavy makeup, no diamond crown, no designer gown. She wore a simple dress, her smile shy, her eyes calm. She looked nervous but graceful. Standing next to the millionaire, she seemed like a complete opposite of the life he lived. Gasps filled the room. Some whispered in disbelief. Others laughed quietly. Friends of Arman pulled him aside before the ceremony. "Are you serious?" one of them asked. "She is not your match. She doesn't belong to your world." Another one warned him, "Think about your image. People will laugh at you. Your reputation will be ruined." But Arman only smiled and replied softly, "I am not marrying for them. I am marrying for myself." And with those words, he walked back to her, holding her hand firmly in front of everyone. The wedding was not like the glamorous ones shown on TV. There were no grand decorations, no fireworks, no expensive stage. It was small, quiet, and simple. Some of his family members didn't even attend. They felt embarrassed. They whispered, "A girl from a cafe? She cannot be our daughter-in-law." But Arman didn't care. For the first time in his life, his heart felt at peace. He looked at Sarah and thought, "This is real. This is not fake. She doesn't want my money, she wants me." When the wedding pictures came out, the reaction was brutal. The internet mocked them. Comments flooded the posts. "She looks ordinary. Why her? He could have married anyone, and he chose this. She must be after his money." Reporters wrote cruel headlines, "Millionaire shocks the nation with strange choice of bride." Society laughed. The world judged. But behind the doors of his mansion, Arman was calm. For the first time in years, he felt he had made the right choice. Sarah, however, felt the pressure. She noticed the stares in public. She heard the whispers behind her back. In the market, people pointed at her and said, "That's her, the ordinary girl who married a millionaire." Sometimes she sat alone in her new home, wondering, "Do I really belong here? Did I make a mistake?" Arman always comforted her. He would sit beside her and say, "Don't listen to them. I didn't marry you for the world. I married you for me. And I know, one day, they will understand." But deep inside, even he knew the road ahead would not be easy. Everywhere they went, society questioned them. At business dinners, people gave her cold looks. At family gatherings, she was ignored. Even some of his closest business partners doubted his decision. But Arman never left her side. He held her hand in public, introduced her with pride, and never once looked ashamed. People started calling him foolish. But in his heart, he knew something that no one else knew. There was a reason behind his choice. A truth hidden in his past. A truth that explained why, out of millions of women, he chose Sarah. And soon, that truth would begin to come out. Life after the wedding was not the fairytale Sarah had imagined. Yes, she was now living in a mansion. Yes, she was the wife of a millionaire. But the reality was far from easy. The first struggle came from inside the family itself. Some of Arman's relatives refused to accept her. At family dinners, they avoided her. At parties, they hardly spoke to her. One of his aunts even said openly, "She doesn't fit with us. She is too simple. What will people think?" Sarah smiled politely, but inside, her heart broke. She wanted to be accepted, but no matter how kind she was, people only saw her as the girl from the cafe. Outside the home, things were even harder. The media followed them everywhere. Every time Sarah stepped out, cameras clicked. Newspapers wrote cruel headlines. "The millionaire's plain wife. From waitress to queen, luck or strategy." On social media, strangers mocked her looks, her clothes, even her background. Some people wrote, "She is with him only for money. She doesn't love him." Others said, "This marriage will not last." Sarah read those comments late at night when she couldn't sleep. Tears filled her eyes, but she stayed quiet. Arman noticed her sadness. One evening, he found her sitting on the balcony, looking down at the city lights. She whispered, Maybe they are right. Maybe I don't belong in your world. Armin sat beside her, held her hand, and said softly, Sarah, listen to me. You belong here because this is not my world anymore. This is our world. Let them talk. Their words don't matter. What matters is us. Sarah nodded, but deep down, the pressure was becoming heavier day by day. Armin's business partners also began to question him. One of them told him during a meeting, your choice is affecting your image. Investors are losing confidence. People don't take you seriously anymore. Another one added, marriage is more than love for someone like you. It's about power, reputation, and society. You made a mistake. Armin listened calmly and replied, if love is a mistake, then I am happy to be wrong. But after they left, he felt the weight of their words. He knew his decision was costing him respect in the business world. Yet, he refused to give up on Sarah. The couple faced struggles everywhere they went. At charity events, whispers followed them. At public gatherings, people looked at Sarah with judgmental eyes. Even at the supermarket, strangers stared at her as if she did not deserve to stand next to him. But the hardest moments were when Sarah's own confidence started to break. She stopped dressing up for events, afraid people would laugh. She avoided parties, preferring to stay home when no one judged her. Sometimes, late at night, she asked Armin, why me? Out of everyone in the world, why did you choose me? Armin always gave the same gentle smile and answered, because you are different. Because you are real. But he never told her the full truth, not yet. Time passed, but the struggles did not stop. One afternoon, Sarah was invited to a high society lunch. She went, hoping to make friends. But instead, the women at the table made cruel jokes. Do you even know which fork to use? One of them laughed. Another whispered loudly, she looks so lost. Poor thing, she doesn't belong here. Sarah sat quietly, fighting her tears. When she returned home, she locked herself in her room. That night, Armin found her crying. For the first time, she shouted, I can't do this anymore. I can't fight everyone every day. Why did you bring me here? Armin hugged her tightly and whispered, because you are the only one who was there when I had nothing. One day, everyone will understand why I chose you. But until then, please, trust me. Sarah looked at him, confused. She didn't know what he meant. She didn't know that a secret from the past was the real reason behind their marriage. The struggles continued, but Armin's loyalty never changed. He stood by her in public, defended her against insults, and loved her more with each passing day. The world thought he was a fool. But he was waiting for the right moment, the moment when the truth would finally come out. And when that moment arrived, everything would change. The questions never stopped. Why had a millionaire chosen a simple girl? Why would a man with everything in life marry someone with nothing? People searched for answers, but Armin stayed silent. He never explained. He never fought back. He only held Sarah's hand, stood beside her, and kept moving forward. But deep inside his heart, he knew the reason. A reason so personal, so powerful, that words were not enough to explain it. Years ago, before the world knew his name, Armin was not a millionaire. He was just another young man struggling to survive. Back then, life was hard. He lived in a small rented room, worked late nights, and often went to sleep hungry. His dreams were big, but his pockets were empty. Many people mocked him. Some friends left him. Even relatives told him, you will never succeed. In those dark days, when no one believed in him, there was one person who did. Sarah. She worked in a small cafe. Her life was simple, but her heart was big. She saw something in Armin that others couldn't. When he walked into the cafe tired and hopeless, she would serve him tea with a smile. Sometimes, when he didn't have enough money to pay, she quietly said, don't worry, I'll handle it. But she gave him more than food. She gave him hope. She would listen to his dreams and encourage him. You can do it, Armin, she used to say. Don't stop believing. One day, you will make it. Her words stayed with him. On nights when he wanted to give up, he remembered her voice. There was a time when he fell sick and had no money for medicine. Everyone turned away. But Sarah helped him. She sat by his side, brought him food, and cared for him until he recovered. She never asked for anything in return. She didn't care about his money, because he had none. She didn't care about his status, because he had nothing to give. She only cared about him. That kindness became the foundation of his strength. Slowly, his hard work began to pay off. He built a small business. Then another. His ideas grew, his confidence grew, and step by step, his life changed. People who once laughed at him came back, pretending to be his friends. Relatives who once ignored him started calling again. Slowly, the same world that rejected him began to respect him. And one day, he became the man everyone admired, the young millionaire. But while the world celebrated his success, he never forgot the girl who stood by him when he had nothing. Years later, when people asked him why he chose Sarah as his wife, he never explained. But deep inside, he remembered every single moment. The nights she gave him free food. The mornings she encouraged him not to quit. The days she helped him when no one else cared. He remembered her pure heart. And he made a promise to himself, if I ever make it, I will return to the one person who never left my side. That was the reason he chose her. Not out of pity. Not because he had no options. But because he understood one simple truth. Loyalty is priceless. Love without conditions is rare. And Sarah had given him both. One evening, after another painful day of society's insults, Arman finally told Sarah the full story. He sat beside her and said softly, "Do you remember the cafe where we first met? Do you remember how you helped me when I had nothing?" Sarah nodded, surprised. "Of course. But that was long ago." Arman held her hand and continued, "That was the reason I married you. Because when I was nobody, you treated me like somebody. You believed in me when the world laughed at me. You saw the man I could become, not the man I was. How could I forget that? How could I marry anyone else?" Sarah's eyes filled with tears. For the first time, she understood the depth of his choice. Outside, people still judged them. But inside, Sarah's heart felt light. For the first time since the wedding, she didn't feel like an outsider. She felt like the most important person in his life, because she truly was. And slowly, those around them would begin to see the truth as well. But that would only happen after one final moment. A moment so powerful, it would silence every critic, every insult, every doubt. And when that moment came, the world would never look at Sarah the same way again. The truth had been spoken between Arman and Sarah. She finally understood why he chose her, why he never cared about the insults, why he kept standing strong when the world called him foolish. But the world still didn't know. Society still mocked her. His business partners still doubted him. Even his own family members whispered behind closed doors. It was time for the truth to be revealed. One day, Arman was invited to a grand business conference. Leaders, investors, celebrities, and reporters filled the hall. Cameras flashed from every corner. Everyone waited to hear his speech about success, wealth, and power. He stood on the stage, tall and confident. The lights shone on him, but his eyes searched the crowd until they found Sarah, sitting quietly in the corner. And then, instead of talking about business, he told a story. He began, "Everyone looks at me today and calls me successful. But very few know the truth about how I reached here. Years ago, I had nothing. No money, no name, no respect. People turned away from me. Friends left me. Even family doubted me. But there was one person, only one, who stood by me when I had nothing. She gave me food when I was hungry. She gave me hope when I wanted to quit. She believed in me when no one else did." The audience grew silent. He looked at Sarah and continued, "That person is sitting here today. That person is my wife." Gasps filled the room. Cameras turned to Sarah. Some people's eyes widened in shock. Arman's voice grew firm. "I didn't marry her because of beauty. I didn't marry her because of fame or wealth. I married her because she is the reason I am standing here today. She gave me strength when I was weak. She gave me light when I was lost. Money can buy cars, houses, and fame. But money cannot buy loyalty, kindness, or a pure heart. And that is what she gave me. That is why I chose her." The hall remained silent for a moment. Then, slowly, applause began. Soft at first, then louder and louder until the room was filled with the sound of clapping. Reporters quickly changed their tone. Cameras captured Sarah's teary eyes, her shy smile, and the pride on her face. The next day, newspapers carried new headlines. The millionaire's secret revealed, a love story like no other. He married his angel, the woman who helped him when he had nothing. Social media, which once mocked Sarah, now praised her. People wrote, "This is real love." Others said, "She proved money doesn't define worth." Slowly, society's view began to change. Sarah, who once walked with her head down, now walked with confidence. At parties, people no longer whispered cruel jokes. Instead, they respected her. Some even apologized. Even Arman's family, who once rejected her, began to soften. They saw the truth, that she was not just a girl from the cafe. She was the woman who had saved him, stood by him, and loved him when no one else did. One evening, Sarah asked Arman, "Do you think people will ever stop judging?" Arman smiled and replied, "Maybe not. But now they know the truth. And the truth is stronger than their judgment." She leaned against him, her heart finally at peace. Their story became an example. People started telling it to their children as a lesson. Don't judge people by their wealth. Judge them by their heart. Sarah and Arman proved that love is not about status, beauty, or money. Love is about loyalty, kindness, and standing together in every season of life. Years later, when people remembered Arman, they didn't just remember him as a successful millionaire. They remembered him as the man who chose love over image, kindness over judgment, loyalty over luxury. And they remembered Sarah, not as the ordinary girl from the cafe, but as the extraordinary woman who taught the world what true love means. Because in the end, the greatest riches are not in mansions or cars. The greatest riches are found in the heart of someone who stands by you when you have nothing. And that was the lesson their story gave to the world.